Hey everybody, and welcome back. Today we'll call this video the big reveal, where we're going to reveal to you what all of that stuff was all about, where we set up a couple of challenges for you guys and had you listen and give us some feedback. And we also set up a poll in our community section where you could check A, B, or C, or in the case of the last challenge, A or B, and tell us what you preferred. And let's get right into this and reveal everything. And I want to say up front, you guys were really, really sharp. You've got really good ears, which didn't surprise me at all. You guys, most of you picked A as the original file. And if you picked A as the original file, you were correct. That was the unmolested, unchanged file from the original artist in an AIFF format. The other two were, in fact, recordings that we made in our room here. We made actual recordings of the output from our system. And most of you guys kind of picked up on that. The surprising part, though, was what you liked the best, which was a big surprise. And what brought all this on was that some time ago, Ron and I tried to make some in-room recordings of my little desktop speaker, which used the little LGK speakers. And then we did some with the LGK 2.1s, which was one of the LGK drivers and one of the 5-inch woofers underneath it. And we learned a lot of things when we did those recordings. We were really surprised at what we were able to capture. And still there's things that we can't capture, but it was a bit of a surprise. And then we started listening to these. And I'll reveal to you right now, the very first challenge was, in fact, in-room recordings of our system played through the LGK 2.4s. And the thing that impressed us with the 2.4s was just how these things sounded in the listening room. It was extremely holographic. You know, the surface area around this driver is pretty small. There's no real phase shifts of any kind because it's a wideband driver covering it. They're crossing really low to 4 of these woofers down below. And then on the back, there's another LGK driver on the back that's creating a lot of this ambience, and it's creating a sound as if it's more like an open baffle speaker. So it really puts the recording in the room, and it makes a studio track recording feel like the artists are actually right here in the room. And we were curious if we could really pick that up in the recording. And I'd have to say that the recording itself caught about 10% of what we're really hearing when we're here. The microphones are still making a copy of that copy for you to listen to. It's not the same as if you're actually here listening, but it did capture some of those qualities that these bring to the table. And again, we wanted to see if that came through. And I appreciate that all you guys really listened and tried to make comparisons and gave us some good feedback on that. Like I said, everybody that's been over has just been floored by these things, including Clayton Shaw from Spatial Audio. He came over and gave him a big thumbs up. He even ordered some of these drivers to play with. And the vocal region in these speakers is as good as anything I've ever really heard. Any speaker we've had in here, I've heard in other places. I would say second only to the big NXtreme or NXoticas with the big open baffle NQ woofers and the planar magnetic tweeter. I'd say close second to those in the vocal region. And those are kind of an end-all be-all speaker. They'll just designed to do anything and everything top to bottom and do it really well. These are not. These are not designed to be a end-all be-all top to bottom do everything speaker. That's not what they're for. They were designed for small rooms, for rooms that have very little room treatment because it has very controlled dispersion, and they're capable of giving you a layered sound stage in a way that other speakers can't. in those same applications where you can't pull the speakers 3 or 4 feet out into the room. Yet with this one, even close to the wall in the rear ambient driver, it's creating a lot of that big speaker sound in a small package. And we've got matching center channels and surrounds and smaller versions that kind of fill out this whole line, and everything matches really well. And so that's what it was designed for. And we feel like it nailed it pretty well, but we wanted to do this challenge and let you guys kind of give a listen and a little window into what these things are capable of. And I appreciate a lot that you guys spent the time really comparing these things. Let's talk about the music that we chose for these. We recorded about 3 different songs using these things and used some different amplification. And I picked a song that I want to do on my channel, and we picked one that Ron wanted to release on his channel. And the song that I chose on mine was a Vienna Teng song. And I love Vienna Teng. And I have, I think, almost all of her albums. And I would encourage you guys to go to her website. And her albums are available for purchase on her website. I think you can order 5 of them for $50. And if you don't have them, you need to go there. Go to Vienna Teng's website, order all those albums, and you will love them. If you liked the sound clips in any way at all, you'll really love all that stuff that she did. The song that I picked was called Eric's Song, and it's just her and a piano. And it's just a beautiful song that really showed off the strengths of these speakers. And then Ron chose one from Jennifer Warnes that was Somewhere Somebody. It's a very popular song of hers. It's a little more involving. It's got a lot more going on in the background and vocals that are over here and things like that. And these things just really layer that stuff three-dimensionally, just like crazy. And some of you noticed that in the room recordings that we made. You also noticed that there was room noise in the recordings, and a lot of you just hated them because you could hear that room noise. And that was in a dead quiet room. But that's not just noise, it's ambience and reflections and things going on in the room that make things sound a little more lively. And a lot of you guys like that more lively sound. That's just the way it is. Okay, if A was the original recording, then what was tracks B and C? And what was the difference between those two? Well, track B was played through a pair of our Dot Audio 120 watt tube amps. And for those of you who picked that as your favorite, you picked up on the qualities of that amplifier. It's a lusher, more liquid vocal. It's a softer sound across the top end. It's just a different presentation, and it's something that I really love when I'm sitting in here listening to music and I'm listening to a lot of vocal presentations. It's just gooey, lush, ooh, nice. Track C, same track, but we were using our little chip amps. We've got some custom-built chip amps that are some prototypes that are kind of test beds for some new technology, and they're built with a big overly built transformers on them, and it's kind of a one-of-a-kind pair of amps, and it's beat up on most of the amps we've had in here, and we've kept them for comparisons. And it's a livelier sound. It still has a lush vocal sound, very much like a tube amp, but it's more detailed, faster, cleaner. It's a little bit different sound. So for those of you guys who picked that, that's what you were listening to. And I appreciate the fact that, and I'm really surprised by the fact that almost 50% of you guys chose the recordings over the original track, which just blew our minds. Who's going to pick a copy over the original? But a lot of you guys did, because these things were creating a presentation that was more like you were right here in the room with the original artist. Whereas that studio recording, when you listen to it on headphones especially, it sounds like a studio recording. And what these sound like in our room is it sounds like the original artists are all right there in our room. And they reproduced that sound, and the recording captured it, and you guys were able to catch that in the recording. And so I appreciate that you guys listened and that you picked up on that. Let's look at what this thing costs as a kit. I mean, we sell this thing for the base level kit, $599. That's $599 for the whole kit. And as you heard it here, this pair had one upgrade, and that was the tube connector upgrade, which improves clarity across the board. $651 for the entire kit as the way you heard it. We also have a flat pack available for $325. You can also order it assembled if you want the cabinets assembled. You can order them assembled and veneered, or you can order them fully assembled like you see here, ready to plug and play. How about $1,855, and you get your choice of different veneers that you want. That is a heck of a deal. I mean, for our budget level product line, we're really happy with how these things sound. Now, let's talk about that second challenge. The second challenge, you had two options. You had to choose from either A or B. Which did you prefer best, A or B? And what speaker were we playing? Well, if you picked A as the original track, you were correct. A was the original unmolested track straight from the artist, and B was the Brutes. Yeah, that's right. It was the big old school three-way speakers, the Brutes. Now, the Brute's a fun speaker, and it's one of those speakers you can just throw anything at and crank up and really have some fun with. I mean, it makes you drag out all your old recordings and your drum tracks and everything that's dynamic and loud and fun. And it's one of those kind of speakers. But it's also a speaker that has really good vocals and really good detail levels. And I wanted to show just how well it did that. And I picked another Vienna Tang track. Now, this one that I picked was, it had a little bit of bottom end to it. It had a little blossom and a little bloom. And it did show off the fact that it'll go down low and it'll carry that foundation really well. And the one that Ron had on his site that he used in his poll was a much more dynamic, more drum-heavy track from Pink Floyd. It was the track Mother. And these things just eat that thing up. I mean, that's one of those songs we just sit in here and crank that thing up and are just in awe of the presentation, the sound stage, how well it hits the kick drums and everything. It just crushes that stuff. And we were surprised that a lot of that came through in the recordings. Now, in the recording of Vienna Tang, you guys picked about 25% of you liked the recording better than the original file, which was, again, a surprise. But in the one that Ron produced, a little less than 50% of you picked the recording over the original file, which, again, was a surprise. The difference being it's more in the room. It's more of a presentation of making you feel like you're really there with the artist versus the studio recording. So it's just a different presentation. And it depends on the system you guys have as to whether or not you liked one thing or the other. Like when we were listening to these with the tube amps, if you have a system that's a little brighter, a little harsher, a little sharper, maybe the recording that was played through the tube amps was a better balance for you. And vice versa. If you liked the chip amp, you may have been listening to it on a system or headphones to where you really needed a little sharper dynamics. And with the Brutes, I mean, they worked well with either of the amps, but I think on those two, we used the solid state amp. I say solid state, the chip amp on both of those. We did another recording where we did the tube amps using a recording from Eva Cassidy, and whew, man, it sounded good through these things. We're going to take all these recordings that we've made and try to put them on the website for each of these speakers so that you can download them right from our website, or we're going to try and set it up to where you can stream it right from the website and hear our system playing these speakers or the Brutes, so you get a little bit of an idea of what these things sound like. Now let's look at the cost of the Brute kit, and the cost of it, the base kit, is $1,195. The kit with the high-end bypass caps, as you heard it, is $1,275. Now the flat pack is $800, and it's a pretty involved flat pack. There's a lot of machining time. There's a lot of layers, a lot of braces, a lot of parts. That's why it's an $800 flat pack. But it all fits together like putting puzzle pieces together, and it makes for a really heavy and really strong box. Those things are 65 pounds each when they're finished, and man, they are solid. Now, if you want them fully assembled and finished, and your choices of veneers, $3,847 to $3,929. You can get the Brutes finished, ready to play, plug and go, and have fun. And there you go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little challenge. We may do some more challenges here coming up. We've got some things in mind that we may try. And we really appreciate that you participated in this thing. If you haven't subscribed, again, please hit the subscribe button. And that way you're notified when new videos come out. And that's it for this one. We've got another one to shoot here after this, where we're going to talk about how we recorded these things, the types of microphones that we use, and the recording technique and the recording gear. We're going to tell you everything about that whole process so you could replicate it as well if you'd like. All that coming up in the next one. And look forward to you guys seeing me there.